Clearly Joe missed geography class on the day they studied Europe. But that's okay, Joe, because you corrected yourself, so I'll let it slide. Strike one. Hi, I'm Colin Stone and this is Talk Shop, here to analyse the communication and presentation skills of the world's big names to highlight what works and what they need to change. For the first time in this series, it's the current President of the United States, Joe Biden, and a speech on climate change in July 2022. Okay, let's get into it.
It's an honor to be joined by your neighbor from Rhode Island. He's not a bad guy at all. I live in his house, Sheldon Whitehouse, a great champion of the environment. He's been banging away at it. I come here today with a message. As president, I have a responsibility.
No, I'm definitely rewatching that.
A great champion of the environment. He's been banging away at it. I come here today with a message. As president.
Yeah, that's one of the stranger starts to a climate change speech I've ever seen. Biden seemingly stops mid-story and remembers that he's meant to be giving a talk here, and he moves in a total non sequitur of banging away at I come here today with a message. It's very odd. And if you want the start of your speech to make an impact unlike that, finish your sentence, or in this case your story, pause for a few seconds, allow the applause to end, and then begin with your opening line. But it's almost like someone's jabbed him in the side here to say, Joe, the speech, back on track. Okay, let's get into the speech properly.
And that's what climate change is about. It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake.
You could make an argument that his use of literally here is incorrect or misplaced. I'd argue it's unnecessary. You can often make sentences stronger or more powerful by removing these intensifying words or phrases. So for example, the health of our citizens is at stake. I believe that's better without the literally. But if you really want to use it, then you should choose something less abstract than health and go for a tangible example. Pick people's homes, their livelihoods, even their lives. That would work much better.
The UN's leading international climate scientists call the latest climate report nothing less than, quote, code red for humanity. Let me say it again. Code red for humanity. Isn't that a group of political officials, elected officials? These are the scientists.
Sorry, Joe, I failed to catch a word of that. Gonna watch it again.
Let me say it again. Code red for humanity. Isn't that a group of political officials, elected officials? These are the scientists.
Okay, I got it that time, but there's two things to highlight here. The first is his repetition of code red for humanity. That is good technique. It's very much done to reiterate and reinforce a key point, and it's done in simple 9-year-old language. This is something I've previously highlighted with former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, if you want to go check that out, and it's a staple of political leaders. Saying a short phrase, and then telling the audience you're gonna say it to them again, and repeating the phrase. It works. But the second issue here is what I believe is an ad-lib. He's using an aside to say, these aren't elected officials, they're scientists. But he says it so fast and without good diction that the point is missed. And if you're there in person, you're unable to rewind. So if you're ad-libbing, slow right down. Okay, let's keep going.
$145 billion in damages just last year. More powerful and destructive hurricanes and tornadoes. I've flown over the vast majority of them out west and down in Louisiana, all across America. It's amazing to see. Ravaging 100-year-old.
The word choice here is the problem. I'm unsure if the tens of thousands of people whose homes have been destroyed in these hurricanes would say it was amazing to see. And watching that clip back, I believe he's ad-libbed again rather than reading what's on the page, because you notice he stumbled looking to find the right word and then he found the wrong one anyway. Word choice is important when the stakes are this high. He could have used horrifying, awful, devastating, and all of those would have been much better than amazing.
So my message today is this. Since Congress is not acting as it should, and these guys here are, but we're not getting many Republican votes, this is an emergency, and I will look at it that way. I said last week, And I'll say it again loud and clear. As president, I'll use my executive powers to combat the climate crisis in the absence of congressional action.
I'm pausing it here. So from saying the words, my message today is this, to what I believe is the end of the sentence, that's about 22 seconds. That's far too long to be memorable, and he even trips up a couple of times along the way, which makes remembering it even more challenging. If you want an audience to take something away from what you've said, it's got to be short and sweet. Let's continue.
Emergency. We need to act. We just take a look around. Right now, 100 million Americans are under heat alert. 100 million Americans. 90 communities across America set records for high temperatures just this year, including here in New England as we speak.
Okay, I liked that segment. The 100 million Americans is arguably the slowest he's been so far, and he repeats that for impact. The 90 communities is faster, but it's a good stat, and he makes it relevant for his audience by bringing it to the area he's in New England. It's good technique.
They've already completed over 500 heat-related inspections of workplaces across 43 states. And at the end of the day, it's going to save lives. Now, let me tell you why we're here at Brayton Point. 5 years ago...
This is worth pointing out. Biden is really rushing through what he should have said twice as slowly and then paused for even longer in the middle. The end of that section, before he says now to signal he's kicking off the next part, finished with the line, "It's going to save lives." He needs to stop, pause for applause, look around at the audience, take his time, and then say now to show he's moving on. This is frustrating to watch as a trainer because the content is good, it's simple, understandable stuff, but the delivery so far is lacking to say the least. Let's keep watching.
One of toxins, smog, greenhouse gas emissions, the kind of pollution that contributed to the climate emergency we now face today. Gina McCarthy, a former regulator in Massachusetts, was telling me on the way up how folks used to get a rag out and wipe the gunk off of their car's windshields in the morning just to be able to drive. Not very much unlike where I grew up in a place called Claymont, Delaware.
Yeah, this is better. It's visual storytelling within what is a corporate presentation. You can see the rag, the gunk on the windshield. It paints a vivid picture for the audience, and it works well to demonstrate what life used to be like. It's a technique we talk about all the time on our courses, and we could all benefit from using this kind of succinct visual storytelling in all of our businesses. Okay, moving on.
The converter station here and the substation nearby are the assets that move energy across the power lines. They'll now move clean electricity generated offshore by the wind. Enough power to power hundreds of thousands of homes onto the grid, putting old assets to work, delivering clean energy.
So this is interesting. I'm about halfway through Biden's speech at this point, and we've got a few minutes now where his speed has been good, with only the occasional mumble. Sure, there are still a couple stumbles, but this overall is a true reflection of what often happens in reality. We're nervous in the opening stages of a talk. The energy, the adrenaline are flowing, and the first casualty of that is the speed. It can take time to settle into a presentation and feel comfortable. That's why you've got to work really hard at the start to set the tone, speak slowly, and keep it that way. So this is much more presidential, but it's taken almost 10 minutes to get there.
And folks, with American leadership back on climate, I was able to bring more world leaders together than we got 100 nations together to agree that the major conference in Glasgow, England, Scotland, to change the emissions.
Okay, clearly Joe missed geography class on the day they studied Europe. But that's okay, Joe, because you corrected yourself, so I'll let it slide. Strike one.
My dear mother, God rest her soul, you say, Joey, at everything bad, something good will come if you look hard enough. Look what's happening.
A brief stop, you'll see he's closed his script now. Let's keep watching and see what happens.
We're going to be able to create as many or more good paying jobs. We're going to make environments where people live safer. We're going to make the air safer. I really mean it. We have an opportunity here. I'll bet you when you see what's happened here in this cable construction here, manufacturing, and you go back and ask all the people who grew up in this beautiful place.
Okay, a couple of notes here. I'm really glad he did that because he's at his most natural in those final 20 seconds. It's imperfect, the word choice could have been better, but he's looking around at the audience, he's gesturing with his hands, and whilst he turns away from the microphone there, it's because he's left the script behind and he himself is now engaging with what he's saying rather than just reading the words. So remember that, you'll always be at your most natural when you rely on prompts or single word bullet points, and instead just talk to the people in front of you. Okay, let's finish up.
And there wasn't any alternative. Folks, we have no excuse now. We know it. There are answers for it. We can make things better in terms of jobs. We can make things better in terms of the environment. We can make things better for families overall. So I'm looking forward to this movement. Thank you, thank you, thank you. May God bless you all and may God protect our troops. Thank you.
A very American ending to that speech. Unsure how that would go down in Aberdeen. But what preceded that was good. The sunglasses came off, so he's making eye contact, or perhaps squinting at people in the crowd due to the sunshine. He's speaking without a script. It's slow-ish. It's a solid ending, and I believe him. He built credibility throughout that speech. He made a compelling argument, particularly towards the end. A strong finish from Joe. This is the first full speech from the current American president that I've watched. I'd only seen snippets of Biden previously, and it's a game of two halves. The opening minutes are very poor. He's far too quick. He mumbles his way through words that should have had impact. And then towards the middle, he seemingly grows in confidence, becomes more assured. It's almost presidential at times. As a global leader, he's towards the lower end of the good presenter scale, so I'll be interested to see if his style changes with the 2024 election on the horizon. But if he could bottle what he did in those closing minutes and then do that all the time, I believe he'd be received much better than his opinion polls would currently reflect. I trust you've enjoyed this edition of Talk Shop, and if you want to learn how to grow your confidence in public speaking, check out our e-learning courses on the Pink Elephant Academy and use the discount code TALKSHOP for 30% off everything. Till next time, smile and speak slowly.